Starting lineup, Eloy, Volibear, Zed, Jinx, Mr. Z up against Mundo, Viego, Nafiri, Samira, Lux. Rating of the picks for a lower ranked game. Eloy as a top 10. Volibear in the jungle 7. Zed as a mid 7. Mr. Z in support 6. Mundo as a top 10. Viego in the jungle. 6. Nafiri as a mid. 10. Samira as a shooter. We're gonna bump Samira down from a 9 to an 8. So that's an 8 for Samira in shooter slot for the lower ranked. Lux in support 6. Here in this game, the fanatical ambition of a man who has learned very little and a very sad statement about what we can deduct based on the honor system and the experience system. Something probably to keep in mind for the future, as this is becoming less and less reliable, and this Mr. Z playing a champ that can work out fine for the pros, but really something that is very difficult to handle, and a very awkward character, kind of like Blitzcrank on steroids. We get to enjoy a really refreshing experience, as this time I will bear witness myself to this mid bullying and laying into this jungler, and this top bullying and laying into this jungler. Unique thing from the outside looking in to suddenly not be the most harassed player on the map anymore. It's a unicorn and a once in a lifetime type of thing to see others take more verbal threats than me, but in this game it actually happened, which is proof that it is technically possible at the very least. Which landed me in a position where I got to kick back and watch others fight it out, and have them make each other's life a horrible mess for a change. It was fun. In an unconventional way, pretty evenly matched too. A lot of entertainment there. Moving on. Taking it from the top here, we're going to do this clownish nonsense of invading the other half. I come from an environment where tier and rank mean something, so I halfway trust this Z person, which of course this is League of Legends, Iron, so I should know better. This Lux ends up going down. Eventually, we get a bit of a play on what I said in one of the previous episodes about the hidden benefit of constantly moving the ball. And you get this fallout from me porting back to the base. This Volibear thinks that he should easily be able to handle this. He's having a lot of trouble with the lane minions. I make use of the offensive nature of that teleport spell, using fish bones for a little extra attack range. I end up chasing Lux down as well. You have that passive, the Relentless Storm, giving Volibear, especially early, bonus damage every few attacks, resulting eventually into unleashing multiple rapid attacks. Volibear probably pretty damn close to the exact polar opposite of Jinx. Jinx, ultra item dependent, uber frail early in game, always saddled up with way too much expectations very early on. On the other hand, Volibear, a champion that has a massive advantage early game, one of the easiest characters to play, but Volibear most definitely falls off. And it is even very difficult in many ways to keep his scaling going long term. This Mr. Z Time Lord really off and on in this play, half in and half out. And this player is going to end up cultivating a playstyle much like a con man that makes it look like he's contributing and throwing in when he's really not doing much of anything. as we will see throughout this game. This said player, having used up his ultimate, going to do what a 7-year-old boy would do with Buzz Lightyear dolls back when we grew up, and just plunging in headlong to the pure perversion of whatever fantasy you had when you saw somebody do this on the professional stage, and it just becomes all about what it looks like rather than actually any in-game mechanic. And then I guess from a kind of shame we are going to start manhandling the ping system like it's Celeste Star. We end up with this exchange in the bottom lane. This Hope Knight Mr. Z person is going to get ambushed and targeted. I'm going to jump in and save him, and then this Mr. Z is just going to abandon me. And if you can live your life without the experience of honor, then by all means go ahead. You should be able to find over 100 episodes on this channel. Before too long, you will be able to find 500 episodes on this channel. You can cut and edit and manipulate my clips, but you will never find a moment where I behave like this Mr. Z because I do not have it in me. Never in my life have I had somebody diving into the enemy to come to my rescue and then just turned around and left as though it wasn't happening. Which again, this Mr. Z has a very strange way of making it look like he's doing something without actually doing something. In the end, throughout this game, with this Mr. Z, I will get not a single benefit from one of his supporting spells. He will frequently not be around me. In no event will he help to push anything. And so we end up with a kind of caricature of a Blitzcrank scenario, where the only thing that you're good for is that special spell, and we just end up never seeing it. Once again, this is why I prefer, for many vacant positions and open positions, and flexible positions in the lineup, a warrior type or a fighter type, more than anything, who have a consistent performance, like a Rel, or a Warwick, or a Wukong, etc. Because they can constantly be helpful once their special thing is gone, or if they're not able to do their special cast, they're still useful. Which is not the case with Blitzcrank or with this Mr. Z. There's a magnificent way to play Mr. Z in which he's ultra helpful and one of the better supporting champs in the game, but this individual does not have the skill to do that. And so you end up with the fallout of just a nothing burger. This clip marks the beginning of the ping epidemic from this Zed player, and eventually this is going to get entirely out of control. We're gonna have this Zed coming after some of the bottom lane targets here, and you immediately eat the fallout, of course, of provoking this Volibear player, because it turns out that we're mostly a team, and so if you have nothing good to say, it's better to say nothing at all. Which you notice, I say nothing at all. That's because I have nothing good to say to these people. You will find that in a team sport or a team game, provoking your allies is probably just in general not a great idea. We eventually have this standoff which looks like we're triple teaming Samira, but if you replay it and actually look closely, it is just me by myself taking down Samira with the attack speed passive. And we're going to have more ping manhandling from this Zed, who seems to have decided as a life philosophy that you can never be reactive enough. Which is probably the exact opposite of my life's philosophy. This Zed username seems to suggest that he struggles with his vision and eyesight and needs glasses. If you need glasses in real life, it is difficult to engage in fights in real life, and many of those people will have to satisfy their aggression on video games. And as I've said in the previous episode, a lot of the metaphysical enjoyment of violence and the satisfaction is really lost if it happens over the internet like this. We get one of the 3 most iconic spells in League with this light binding from Lux in this clip. Lux fires a light projectile in a straight line that binds the first 2 enemy units it hits. The targets are rooted in place and take magic damage. The root can lock down targets in place, allowing Lux or her team to follow up with additional damage. The downside is that it has a long cooldown. And we also have a lot of this Assassin's Creed stuff of escaping in bushes and so on. In this clip alone, we have 2 instances of this wildly experienced Zed player with 10,000 games played and probably the highest regular rank in terms of experience points, and this person is literally caught twice dead running away to the enemy fountain. And as I say so frequently, a lot of the strategy, the hiding and the retreating and the surviving in League is really based on what side you are on. It is going to be your structures, your base, and your turrets that allow you to get away. And we get more of the fantasy of the super cool assassin that we watched in the movie, and things that don't really have anything to do with League. There is nowhere for you to realistically escape as you approach the red base. We're going to have this super experienced Mundo player in this clip running off to Narnia. The turret is right there, my guy. But apparently going to get away with the Void Grubs. We're going to have some of the better moments of this Zed player in this clip. Nafiri will end up forgetting that the clone is there. Zed ends up with the shutdown. Later on going in the top lane using the ult. Eventually in the bottom lane we get the same exact pattern. We have Mr. Z being targeted, I jump in, he casts revive on himself. I should have died there if I didn't build unnaturally tanky. Really, I was the active support in this case. This guy has the ability of being utterly shameless. If things turn out in this way, as a shooter you really have to carry the weight of 2 people. This clip going to mark the beginning of the red team falling apart, as this Mundo player will attribute everything that happened to him in this clip to this Viego, because as he reasons, Viego ate his fruit and that was not allowed, and Viego should have taken down Zed and he didn't, according to this Mundo player, and going to start laying into him to the point where the enemy team will become dysfunctional. Similarly, the play in the bottom lane, which is really just me shooting Samira a lot of times, will be the breaking point in the relationship between the Samira player and this Lux player, and this team will become undone. And perhaps I should really look at a more strategical view for myself when it comes to coordinating in the bottom lane, because as I watch the tape here, it becomes more and more apparent to me that the support player was pretty much using me as a tank. It's completely unnecessary to take a death for a reason like that. Eventually, after I am done tanking for this Mr. Z, my personal favorite play will come up in the mid lane, as this Mr. Z player will take to the ping and start going WTF hysteria based on the fact that I teleported to the mid lane to contribute to a team fight. Because if you are willing to listen to the tales of these people, what stories you will hear, came up with some new logic just now, guys. It turns out that the less you help out in team fights, the more noble you are. That's the new rule. Next time there's a team fight, you should just let your side die. And it's actually the guy who stays by himself somewhere on the other end of the map. That is actually where the noble and the pure of heart remain. Because why not? In terms of truth telling, it is a constant 1v9 every single game from the beginning to the end. If we let these people go, they will have you believing that Jinx should be tanking, and they will have you believing that participation is a WTF moment. At long last, this Mr. Z is going to go down, which is kind of stupid because his ultimate is up, so he could have just revived himself. Apparently, too much effort. And you get the height of irony with this wildly tanky Volibear, just unwilling to tank through anything. Samira ends up in the open, I use the ultimate, and I get that extra execute on him. We end up with this mess where bodies just keep piling on top of each other, so I switch to the AoE output with the switcheroo, and I'm going to end up slowing down this Lux for Eloy. Eventually we get this very ugly mess down at the Drake, where this Mr. Z ends up kill-stealing with Ludens. He casts Revive on Zed. Zed ends up sneaking away even though he's on double life. So I take the full fallout and I die for the team. Why per se this Zed had to be double revived, I don't know. I suggest if you play support, maybe try to support your shooter. Eventually, Mundo will come down the mid lane, and this Zed is going to take it directly to the face. We have a bit of a demonstration of how, quite frankly, it was me and Eloy holding this team together, as this Nafiri will just have a complete free range to crush me, which would never happen in any kind of healthy team. The idea that you can't form any kind of deterrent with any kind of tank or any kind of frontliner, so that there's no other option than for Jinx to completely tank through what this Nafiri can do, just points to a complete lack of coordination. In the end, if I had to rate the synergy between Team Blue, I would have to say a B. You have, in principle, a lot of ability to set things up in a solid manner with this Eloy, and this Volibear should be capable of initiating a couple of team fights, but a lot went to waste because of the behavior of this mid and this jungler. And this game is really a bit either extremely bad or extremely good. When we look at Team Red, I would have to say the synergy a B, because it is very difficult for me to give a team that has Mundo and Nafiri on it anything lower than a B. But in both cases, you're pretty much as close to a C as you could have possibly gotten without actually getting to a C. It was definitely a close call. As far as the rating of the behavior of the individual players is concerned, I would have to say this Eloy an A. In many ways put this team on her back. This Volibear a C. You had bizarre fixations and were kind of being passive aggressive the entire time, making it feel at various moments like it was 4 on 5 and you may as well have quit. This Z a C. Absolute team wrecker. If you would get any more toxic in chat, it would violate community policy. This Mr. Z, a B, by itself, it seemed at times like you were trying. This Mundo, a C, absolute, complete, all-out bully, and total team wrecker. The entire time, laying into other people, laying into this Viego, making it impossible to play their normal positions. This Viego AB, you tried on a moral level, but you were really horrible in execution. This French boy Nafiri, an A, you have to cry bitter tears for this French boy. Got entirely molested in this game. Just slotted in with complete clowns. This Samira AC pretty much tapped out after you couldn't win a 1v1 against me, or should I really say a 2v1 against me, because this support player really wasn't there for me, was a non-factor in this game. And very toxic with the pings. This Lux player AB, you tried but you got reactive and it was clear that you got emotional near the end. Going over this in a bit more depth, we have this Eloy with super heavy tank items. You wasted a ton of money on Spirit Visage and on Mercury. That is a total of about 5,000, 4,000 gold that you just threw down the drain. But it just goes to show you it doesn't matter as long as you have the right principles. That is what makes League so beautiful, that at this level, anybody can do it as long as you're principled. You became a super heavy tank. It was really quite overboard to go with anti-magic in this particular game. And when even I am saying that, that is really saying something. You went a magnificent 16-2-8 and put this team on your back. Thank you for winning me this game, my friend. We have this Volibear player going 3-3, which just symbolizes a complete lack of involvement. I believe you were working on Hollow Radiance. It is very refreshing to see a Volibear player go tanky, I do appreciate that, and I must give you credit for that. However, it is bizarre to me that nobody seems to have noticed that the enemy lineup only had a single magic user. So yeah, we have this Zed player, may we never meet again. I have to say, it is morally quite dark and difficult to see the players with maximum honor rating. This guy had a ruby diamond in his honor ranking, or whatever the hell you want to call it. This is the most toxic player that we've seen in 3 weeks. So there you go, that is apparently what honor means, and getting medallions for good behavior, that is apparently what it means. Apparently you can get that done and be the worst person we've met. So that means essentially that the entire honor system is completely useless, which is not a fun thing to see. Similarly, you have these diamonds that are in a way experience ranks. It makes it all very difficult because you have, of course, actual rank between iron and bronze and so on. But then you also have this aquamarine experience rank, this gold experience rank, and so on. This person was the highest of the high in that. You wrecked a team, you have no idea how to communicate in this game, and you ran to the enemy camp if you wanted to escape. In other words, I am not exaggerating that when I say if I would go into Swift play and I would play with people who were bronze rank in experience or who were gray experience rank and had less than 50 games played, they would most likely know how to act better than you do, which just means that all of this experience is leading up to nothing and nobody. Which is a really demoralizing thing. I'm really going to have to keep in mind not to pay too much attention to anything other than wins and losses in the future. That is what you have taught me. We have this Mr. Z. You seem to have nearly no items. You're going to have to learn to absorb much more damage and punishment for your shooter. I imagine you've been on a losing streak quite frequently. And this is all around a losing support player. You went 3, 2, and 18. I did get the impression that you tried. And in the end we pulled it off, but it was absolutely zero help from you. Just giving you the B rating purely because I could tell that you actually tried. We have this Mundo player going 2, 4, and 0. Dear people, 2, 4, and 0. Go ahead and try and play Mundo and have 0 assists. Go ahead and try that. My goodness, man. You were an Aquamarine experience rank player. You went Heartsteel and Warmog, and you played at Steel Caps. This is an individual who has not learned in all of this time that health is really there to fill up your character after you've already stacked an armor wall. You will be able to tell I never go pure health on characters or on Jinx. I don't start stacking Heartsteel when I want to add defense to my character. That is because without any armor, you will lose that health incredibly quickly. We have this Viego player. You have a Pickaxe, Trinity, Plated Steel Caps, a Serrated Dirk, and you went 1 and 9. It is a miracle that we don't see this more frequently. Viego's entire kit is really based on just collecting gold, but that is pretty much all that he focuses on, so he cannot really endure anything. He can't really set anything up. He can't really trap anything. He can't really properly ambush anything. It's a miracle, really, that we don't see this more frequently. Pretty much Viego is just like, either I can out-punch you and half die myself in the process, or I can't, and if I can't, then I'm just screwed, and that's what we see here. We have this Nafiri player. You did everything you could. You did go Eclipse and Hubris. Those are both bad items. That passive from Hubris, just as well as Eclipse, they both have that in common. You will never trigger it. A complete, justifiable lack of respect for your opponent. As you were facing this Zed player, you did not get a single anti-armor item. Instead, you started stacking a bunch of anti-magic, which is really saying something about what this guy thought of his opponent. That he didn't even care to protect against it. Then we have this Samira. You went 6 and 10. You got a bunch of overpriced items plus the collector. Basically everything that you've been buying is not its money's worth. As the Germans say, preiswert. When we look at the minion skilled, it actually seems to suggest that you were actively trying, which is not something that I've been able to see in the game. You are one of those people who instantly creates as bad a dynamic as you possibly can in the bottom lane. Just antagonizing your entire team, not going to get you anywhere. Wouldn't mind not seeing this guy again. Then we have this Lux who seemingly did much worse than I thought from what I could tell. During the game, this Lux was actually trying to be there for her team. But then we look at your items and we see Malignance and a bunch of movement speed, and you're just not built at all like a support. The reason to give Malignance to Lux like that is so that you could snipe kills, which, even if you could, Lux doesn't grow as well as an ADC into the endgame. So really it's just self-sabotage if you want to win games. Because Lux is never going to be able to spend the gold that she wins from killing as well as an ADC could. It is what I discussed at such great length in the Jinx 3 video, where I talked for 11 minutes about how there is this perception that it is just okay to queue up for mid and support, and then if you don't get mid, you just end up playing your mid mage in support. Purely because she's an AP type, and that supposedly justifies it. All in all, it was a very entertaining game, but perhaps not for the right reasons. It's a good thing that we're ADC right now, because this would be hard to do with people who do not scale well into the endgame. Fortunately, as Jinx, I don't have any kind of problem with endgame. One of the things about this game was that I ended up being level 12, whereas the average level of my team was 16. So it's kind of funny that now we're no longer in jungle position and I'm still lagging behind so badly. You kind of wonder how that's possible because I've been in lanes the entire time. I haven't been idle, I haven't been standing around in the base, I haven't been standing around in the fountain. And somehow I'm level 12, and this stupid Mr. Z is level 15. Go ahead and explain that. It's going to be interesting to see over time if I'm somehow able to address that. You would really think that your kills etc. should factor in way more when it comes to experience. But as best I can tell, I took 1 or 2 trips too many back to the base, I guess. Must be. I can't possibly conceive of what else it could have been. Good one, fun to watch because there's so much falling apart on both sides. Let's hope for a bit of a winning streak. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, you see here Slay, you see some boots, you see Battle Song. Battle Song by itself is nice. You see Ludens here. The amount of times that this is actually going to trigger on Mr. Z is going to be close to 0. That's 2,850 that you're pumping in there. One thing that would be very good here that we're not seeing is tank items. Because if you had some more sustain, then you could actually afford to hover around people and actually use your life-saving abilities some. Yeah, we're going to have Eclipse here, Ionian, Axiom, Serrated. We're going to have Doran's, Eclipse, Hubris here, and then some Edge, and then here, the makings, the beginnings of Trinity. And one thing that I've really noticed is that many of these assassin types end up working really well with crit chance. I personally think that you're really going to see a lot of value if you can make every one of those shuriken throws gain a considerable crit chance. That's going to be one of the most awesome ways to really improve Zed or Neferi's impact on the game here. We have to say yet again, we've seen Eclipse trigger once on Zed throughout this entire game combined. We've seen it trigger a single time on Neferi. So that makes a total of 2 Ever Rising Moon opportunities in over 28 minutes from these 2 players combined. Moving on.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. 30 seconds until minions spawn.
Let's just behave. So whatever. You think I'm crazy? You should see my sister.
Minions have spawned.
Come on. What's the worst that could happen?
Executed.
Really cool. Such a loser. Always ready to cry.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Ask me if I'm listening. Hint, I'm not. No need to be scared or lie. I don't even think once about bull. Answer me. Over here. I'm wearing lots of belts.
An ally has been slain. You have slain an enemy. An ally has been slain.
Let's just behave. So whatever. You think I'm crazy? You should see my sister. Now where was I? All right, wreaking havoc.
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
gun. But don't tell my other guns. Whatever, let's just start shooting. The shadows.
has been slain. An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed. Dominating.
I'm crazy.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Jinx? Stands for Jinx?
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I'm wearing lots of belts. For no reason at all. Let's just behave.
Your turret has been destroyed. Destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain.
Now where was I? Right.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain.
All part of the plan, I suppose.
Godlike. Double kill. Has destroyed a turret.
I really
Shut down. enemy has been slain.
Ah, come on. What's the word?
Dominating.
What if I had a gun that shot other guns?